So, welcome to the show, Lindsay.
Thanks, Sarah. Pleasure to be here.
I am so excited to have you here. I mean, I know global trade can be super complex when it actually doesn't need to be that way. Plus, it's sometimes just inefficient and trust can be a pain just to build, right? Not to mention, new markets can be difficult to navigate for a lot of businesses. So, I'm really excited to hear how the future of global trade and supply chain can be simplified. And that is why you're here. So let's dive right in. Lindsay, I always love to hear about people's journeys, but yours, tell us how it's been being a founder of a company living on four different continents. I mean, wow, from Missouri to Hong Kong. Can you tell us more about your journey and how you got here today?
Sure. Well, being a founder is in my blood. My parents are entrepreneurs. I was the kid with the lemonade stand knocking on your door selling Girl Scout cookies. But I really did get that founder's blood from an early age thanks to my folks. I grew up in St. Louis. I spent my summers in London where my dad was a visiting lecturer. So I got a taste for travel and passion for seeing the world and wanted to specifically follow a career path that would give me a lot of mobility. And I eventually got the chance to move to Hong Kong. And typical expat story here was supposed to be for a year, turned into a short 14 years now.
Wow.
But I spotted a gap in the market here and started my own business. That was my first foray into entrepreneurship. And after 7 years organically growing my business, I was able to exit. So I took that chance and consulted independently for several years after that. And I really wanted to pivot into something that I was really passionate about throughout my career, and that was technology. So I met some of the team from Sarai at a trade show here in Hong Kong, and things were just getting off the ground officially. And I thought how amazing it would be to be a part of such a great company with a great mission to simplify global trade with the backing of the world's largest trade bank. So I started at Serai as a product owner of the data team, and now I'm leading our enterprise solutions. So my team works with large companies to solve their biggest problems with Serai's technology.
Amazing. So let's get into that. Tell us about Sarai. What does it do? How do you help your customers?
Sarai is a B2B platform that helps businesses find new partners, learn more about their supply chains, and we really facilitate better supply chain collaboration to help businesses make more informed decisions on their trade partners and their supply chains. We were spun out of HSBC in 2019, and as I mentioned, our mission is to simplify global trade, something that hasn't changed a whole lot since the bank was originally founded in the mid 1800s, despite significant technological advancements. So that's really where Sarai has a few different propositions that we've gone to market with in the last 2 years, and we've seen significant growth. We are really out to simplify trade through transparency and the exchange of information, the right time, the right place, the right people.
I love that. And you used one of my favorite words, collaboration, right? You can see on the sign behind me, collaboration is the future of business and it's at the center and core of everything that I do because I feel like it's just so important to the future. So is that, something that you're part of your ethos that you live every day?
Yeah, it's in our brand values, partnership, and we have a few others, simplicity. Um, our our business is really around that collaboration because as a let's say a brand or a retailer, the faster that leadership realizes you are your supply chain, the
Yes.
more collaboration and transparency become critical to doing business. It's not just a one-to-one relationship. Your relationships across the entire supply chain have to be collaborative in order to meet your business objectives. Otherwise, we're in a bit of a pickle, aren't we?
Yeah, and retailers are now coming out and talking about how they're competing on their supply chains. They're not even competing on product anymore. They're talking about how supply chain is really their competitive advantage. And so I hope we dig a little bit more into that in a little bit. But what about the brand, right? Your team is so diverse, being from 20 different countries and speaking 19 different languages. How does that play into Sarai's shared values that we just spoke about? What has fundamentally changed about Sarai since its inception until now?
Well, the brand is a strong brand. It's also one of the things that attracted me to join the company. And I think it's reflected in our incredibly diverse user base. So, empathy, simplicity, partnership. These are just a few of our values that really do ring true. And we have seen exceptional growth, especially in 2021. We now have 19,000 companies on our platform and growing every day. It's incredible. We started the year with 3,000 companies on the platform. So we've been a little busy, and
No
those
kidding.
users come from 110 countries. So much like the diverse team at Sarai, we have a real range of diverse businesses on our platform. We really do take diversity seriously. I feel very proud to be a part of a management team that is, half women, half men, and that's quite rare in a tech company, which is what we are at our core. So, uh,
Absolutely. I love that. I mean, diversity and inclusion is something that's at our core as well with the Woman in Supply Chain series, the blended podcast. And I think it's really important. And that's where you really drive innovation. But I want to just step back for a second because you said you started this year with 3,000. Now you're at, I think you said 16 or 19,000. How have you
19.
managed that growth over the last, like, we're not more maybe at 12 months now?
Well, it's been a real strategic initiative for the team. We have a fantastic team that are committed. We are working as quickly as we can to release the new innovative features that keep users coming back to Sarai. Or we're on a release schedule that is every 2 weeks for one of our propositions. And depending on what schedule and what our sprint schedule looks like, we're releasing every day sometimes too.
Amazing, amazing. And what does like let's take a look at that a little closer look at the platform itself, right? I know it's a great system to connect, trade and build more efficient supply chains. Walk us through what that looks like. What features can customers expect and what can they do within the platform?
So we have several propositions, like I said. Our network and trade proposition is where businesses can search, find, connect, and now trade with one another. We recently launched our marketplace there as well. And this is where, much like you have a social media platform like LinkedIn for your personal career, that's where Sarai is a version of that for businesses to find new demand from other businesses, not necessarily in their backyard. So, when you want to work with an international partner and you can't get on a plane and go and inspect their product, this is where having a digital solution is essential. So, COVID has completely flipped the world upside down, but with digital transformation, we are seeing accelerated growth on that side of our platform. And for larger enterprises that have a good understanding of their direct relationships in the supply chain, we have two features that are live today: traceability to understand what raw materials are in your products, and then visibility to learn more about the partners that you're doing business with today. So we have both a public network and private networks on our platform where, depending on what your business needs are, we bring the information from multiple sources together into a singular view so that businesses can make decisions faster and stay more informed and up to date on who they're doing business with around the world.
And that is so important right now. I mean, if you think about what's going on and all the decisions that supply chain professionals are making and looking at risk within their supply chain, that data that is that really key component for them to, stop being reactive, start being proactive and even predictive, which is going to help really make informed and successful decisions in your supply chains moving forward, right?
Exactly. It's mission critical. This is the, I guess, movement of the next few years. So we recently did a report with KPMG called Moving the Needle, Threading a Sustainable Future in Apparel. And that's really where we honed in on the need to have the right information. Currently, businesses, a majority of them, we surveyed over 200 leaders in the industry, but businesses are relying on manual initiatives and work spreadsheets to get this information. So data is really, there's so much of it, but most of it's noise. How do you make sure that you're getting the right information so that you can make better and faster decisions?
Absolutely. And talking about that timeline, what does it look like working with Sarai on like an implementation? Is it really, really heavy as far as workload, or is it easy? And is it a short process? Is it a long process? Walk us through that.
Well, as much as we love technology and we are technologists ourselves, we know that every company today is constrained. They are already working on 3, 4, 5 different transformation projects, whether that's to upgrade an ERP, soup up the website. That's really important that businesses continue to focus on those initiatives. So there is zero tech investment required to use Sarai. For our network and trade on our public network on Serai, it's free. You can sign up in minutes and you
Wow.
can start meeting new partners almost immediately. And then for our enterprise solutions, for visibility and traceability, again, we've designed these strategically to be simple. So it's as easy as possible to get started. And our users are able to, within minutes, get information on their partners that they want to track in an ongoing capacity. For traceability in particular, uh, there is no magic button to press with that, but we make it as simple as possible. And there, you don't need to integrate with any of your solutions unless you want to. And from there, it could be a couple of weeks or a couple of months, and it just depends. But bottom line, Sarai makes it really simple to get that transparency in your supply chain as fast as possible.
I love that. I always say that we got to meet the customer where they are, right? And keep it as simple as possible because a lot of times, I'm sure you've run into this is that, they want to look into a tech solution, but they just feel overwhelmed by what A, they don't know, and B, how much time and effort and change management there is going to be around something like that.
Absolutely. There's a lot of choice out there too. And this is
Yeah.
where we want to continue to stand out because the sooner you can get this information, the faster you can act. That's really important these days when things are continuing to change with our global pandemic going on.
Absolutely. And what are you hearing from your customers? So you've talked to us about the traceability and the visibility being key features. But what are you hearing from your customers about how important that is to their supply chain management?
Let me share one of our favorite anecdotes about our visibility users. Our early adopters have been with us from day one, and whenever we have a new feature, we love to pilot this with them, get their feedback. A lot of the businesses in the apparel industry have, been doing handshake deals for many, many years together, and regulation is forcing them to change. So consumers are also forcing that. But really, businesses that have had the handshake deal going on for 15, 20 years, they're sitting on WeChat, WhatsApp, and that's their version of data management. So a lot of assumptions have been made without having business data backing some of the deals that they do. one of our early adopters was able to plug in some of their longtime partners and did not understand that the data couldn't possibly be true. They were being they were going into financial risk and into a really dangerous territory, I would say. And there was zero communication with their supply chain partner from that aspect. It drove a totally different conversation, and it exposed something that the our customer was able to quickly change in their upcoming seasonal orders. But it's really not that scary sometimes, because that was the outlier in the other list of hundreds of companies that this partner was working with. And it
Right.
was reassuring for them to know that everybody else is okay. They're not in financial distress. So
Right.
that's just one
See,
example of the type of stories that we hear from our users, and it really does help mitigate risk and present opportunities to optimize. I mean, that's what this industry has basically been built on: cost efficiencies for, yeah, profit.
and an opportunity for different perspectives. So why did you focus on the apparel industry first?
Well, it comes back to our origins within HSBC. They have a nice little black book that we were able to look into and say, okay, there's a strong concentration in the apparel and retail industry, textile and garments in Southeast Asia in particular. A lot of the supply chains are concentrated here. So that's in our backyard. And we also understand that within apparel, there is a low digital quotient through the value chain to the raw material suppliers. That was an opportunity for Sarai to help bring businesses into the 21st century and digitize their presence online, which many of them struggle to do. They're small, and they don't have the resources or the technical know-how to get set up on a website. So a platform like Sarai can help bring that digital presence to life to facilitate trade. And really, that's where we're lucky to be a part of such a great company. And the bank really does help us with that presence in the region as well as globally.
Yeah, that's awesome. And, I've looked at the apparel industry before, and there are a lot of opportunities, especially around supply chain. So, a question for you: is your network for buyers, sellers, or is it for both?
It's for both, and it's for, a range of company sizes. So if you're just getting started as a digitally native brand, that's where our platform can help you find the right partners. You can put up an RFQ and get the right people submitting their responses. If you are a well-established brand that we all know and love, that's where you can collect the right information on your supply chain and visualize that in a few different ways to make the most of that data. So it's for buyers as well as for sellers, because this is where we bring the two together. And it's really important that people find your business when you're not able to get on a plane, business as usual, a
Right.
couple years ago. But that's really important for us to help navigate those relationships. Business to business relationships take longer to foster. And that's where we make it easier by presenting this information in a simple, straightforward interface.
Yeah.
And it's, for every company. I think every company should be on Sarai. We've started with
Okay.
apparel. Who knows where we're going?
Well, I was going to ask you who your ideal client is, but obviously there's not really a barrier to entry, right? Because people can just sign up and they can start using it today for free. And, you really cater to startups all the way up to enterprise companies. And I love that because, sometimes there's a lot of gaps between the two, and startups are sometimes like, who do I go to? Who can I work with? What does that look like? And so I'm glad that you spoke about that. And you talked earlier about being, big advocates of diversity and inclusion. Does your platform promote sort of diverse suppliers? Can you look for diverse suppliers on your particular platform?
There are many different criteria that you can search for a new supplier on our platform. So it depends what you're looking for, but that's where, our ideal customer is anyone looking to do business better. But my ideal customer for enterprise solutions is a CEO that's recently maybe made a public commitment at, let's say, COP26, because a lot of these companies, the larger companies, they're now thinking, okay, I'm talking the talk. How do I walk the walk? And that's really important when you have publicly made statements around sustainability, environmental initiatives. The key in meeting those business objectives is transparency, and that comes down to traceability and visibility in your supply chain. You can't be sustainable if you don't have the transparency and traceability at a product level. That otherwise you're at risk of greenwashing, and I think we're all pretty sick of that. So those are my ideal customers, and at Sarai, we really do help simplify that process. Getting a foundation for that level of information that's required to be sustainable is where we start. And working with customers to build on that over time, that's what excites me about Sarai.
Absolutely. Sustainability and diversity. I mean, what's not to love? And that was really well said around, what organizations and how they're thinking about sustainability and how can we walk the walk. So let's bring everything we've talked about to life with a case study. Paint us a picture of how you've worked with one of your customers. What was the challenge that they came to you with, and what was the impact or maybe the ROI of your solution?
So, a lot of the brands that we work with, they are trying to better understand who is in their supply chain upstream, beyond tier two nominated suppliers. They want to get to the farm level. And we have been able to do that with the way that our solution works for traceability and for visibility. They want to know more about these companies so that they can really engage end consumers and tell a story around the garments that are on the racks in their stores. And
Yeah.
that's where this has been a very painful process for a range of teams within the brand company. These multinational brands, bring together multiple people at a working group, from sustainability, sourcing, supply chain, responsible sourcing, even procurement and legal along the way. But everything that's collected in the supply chain has typically been driven in a spreadsheet. And I don't know about you, Sarah, but I didn't go to university to sit my life working in a spreadsheet.
I
And
did not.
right? And that's really where we learned that this company was spending 1,000 hours for one purchase order, working
Wow.
with 23 suppliers involved in the entire supply chain for a pair of women's trousers. And that's one garment, and they produce millions every year. And what was so great to hear was that Sarai, with the way that our feature works, we were able to save them over half the time required
Woo!
to collect that information. So I'll take that as a win. And we're looking at how do we save them even more time in the future.
Every single time you will take that as a win.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, 1,000 hours is just way too much. But if I'm also sitting in the audience and thinking about the clothes that I'm wearing at this moment, right? And one piece of garment that I'm wearing at this moment could take 1,000 hours. And that's, not even the whole, necessarily the whole supply chain to me at my particular door. So that just puts it into perspective, everybody, as to, how much time things are taking if we're not digitizing our supply chain and our processes and not thinking about it. But it also goes to show the benefit, the impact, the ROI that it can have to a variety of organizations when you partner with the right technology company.
Absolutely. And that's really well put, Sarah, because technology is the enabler that we need to do business in a more strategic way. And it's having the right information, data and documentation as well. And Sarai does simplify all of the collection and validation of that for our users.
Amazing. So let's talk about the future for Sarai and the global trade industry. I know you don't have a crystal ball, but what do you think can be expected in 2022? I mean, you're in Hong Kong, so you get a completely different view than a lot of people I've been talking to in North America. So I'd love to get your take on that and maybe any trends that you see emerging.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I'll take up my crystal ball. Uh, I mean, I wish I had a better outlook, Sarah, because I think the supply chain chaos will continue into 2023. That is
Mhm.
going to impact financial performance and stability across multiple industries. But I think that's where, it's not back to business as usual yet. We're all wanting that to happen, but it will be a little bit longer according to my crystal ball. But that's where new shopping holidays like Black Friday, we're going to create new ones so that we have another reason to shop online, and that will carry us forward. So more Cyber Mondays and Tuesdays. I think we'll see a continued increase in either brand consolidation or diversification. So companies are looking to either consolidate their supply chains or they're going to diversify because of the need to nearshore. With all the disruptions we've seen, there's a risk to that bottom line when you can't get product in the store. So making sure that you're producing closer to those retail stores, that's going to be really important in 2022. And I think from there, we have to look at what I'm calling freight fright.
Okay.
This is where I speak with brands and retailers daily about the costs that they are spending on freight right now that were not in the budget for 2021, but they've certainly bumped it up for 2022, and that will continue. So as costs are continuing to soar to new heights with shipping, air, that's really where people are going to look for alternative options. But that's because they're, yeah, not so happy with the costs they're paying today. I love hearing about another company buying a fleet of ships and
Yeah.
containers, and everybody's looking into their own either private jets or airplanes these days. What else? If I think about 2022, digital demand. So, demand for digital solutions is going to be critical. So, cloud based technology, we are definitely going to see an upward trend. I think we did, um, decades worth of digital transformation since 2020, and that can only continue, which is going to present great opportunities in the ESG space. There's really a healthy landscape of solutions that are coming to life thanks to the need to digitally transform. And with that, businesses have to green up their supply chain because we're now able to track what the carbon footprint is, what the social footprint is. And there's no excuse not to have that information. And that can be used to leverage opportunities to engage end consumers. Gen Z, they want to make their decision with their wallet, their purchase power is really
Yeah.
important for them to put their money where their hearts and minds are. So we will see more opportunities to green up the supply chain and then to talk about it. Walk the
Yeah.
walk first and then talk the talk.
Yes, yes, yes. You just gave me goosebumps, leading with the heart. I love that. And that we're going to see more of that. We all need to get kind of on board. What do we expect for the future of Sarai right now? What does 2022 kind of look like for you guys?
More exciting growth at Sarai. I mean, we are looking at how do we amplify what we're doing today. We have our sustainability feature launching early next year. We're currently piloting that with a couple of brands and their supply chains. We have exciting new partnerships we'll be announcing, and we are accelerating our development even faster. So, again, every 2 weeks we're releasing, and this is not only updates, but new features that are informed by our clients. We are incredibly client led. Empathy is one of our core values, and
Mhm.
that's where we truly listen and are building the future of supply chain transparency. That will continue
Ooh,
into 22.
I love that. And the report that you mentioned earlier, we're going to have that in the show notes. So if anybody wants to check that out, go and check that out in the show notes. And Lindsay, I cannot wait to see how Sarai is going to change things. The global supply chain industry is in the spotlight. So anything to make things easy and simple would be super beneficial to everyone. So solutions like Sarai, which fosters an environment for connectivity with visibility and traceability, mean that we can work more efficiently. So, a big thanks to you and your team over at Sarai for helping to make this episode happen. And Lindsay, of course, for joining us today and sharing all your insights.
Thanks so much, Sarah.